following the vision of Tony Vaccaro, a 50-year retrospective that happened and took place here at the Rye Art Center in 1992. So 30 years later, we are proud to bring you Portraits, Personalities, Passion, the photographs of Tony Vaccaro. More information about Tony and his work can be found just about everywhere, but especially on the Art Center's website. So please explore that when you have a chance. While you're there, please take a moment to see the many classes and events that the Rye Art Center has to offer. And take note of our upcoming fundraiser, please, in May. We can't do this without your support. So some of you have already had a chance to see the works in the gallery, and we invite you to return following this talk for more food and drink, and especially to experience the images again. So on behalf of the Rye Art Center, I do want to extend special thanks to Tony's family, Maria and Frank Vaccaro, their sons Luke and Liam, and to the Tony Vaccaro Studio and the Monroe Gallery of Photography for their loans of the artworks. So please remember, too, signed limited editions of the works in the exhibition are available for sale. You can follow the QR codes that are in the exhibit, or please talk to our main office. They'll fill you in. And just a little bit about the flow of the presentation. Each of our three curators will briefly talk about a different aspect of Tony's work and the works that are on view. And then Tony, assisted by his son Frank, will provide commentary on some of the images from the exhibition that we'll have up here on the screen. So now I'd like to introduce one of the curators, and really a true patron of the Rye Art Center for many years, Gail Harrison-Roman.
Thank you, Adam, as always, for your help and leadership. And my gratitude to the staff and the board at the Rye Art Center for everything. Special kudos to Caitlin McMenamin, who's there on the video camera, for her amazing creative abilities and unflagging patience. And I'd also like to extend thanks to Vicki Blank, our Wonder Woman, who can find anything, anywhere, at any time. And especially great many thanks to Pat Cicalo and Sarah Mackay, my co-curators, without whom we would not be here tonight. But this all begins with Tony Vaccaro and his gracious family, Maria and Frank, who have counseled and indulged us in the planning and staging of this exhibit through many months. You have all already had a chance in the gallery to view Tony Vaccaro's visually eloquent photographs of celebrities in the arts, and to be admitted visually into Tony's own combat experiences of the Second World War. Twice wounded in combat, Tony has been awarded the Purple Heart for his bravery and sacrifice. Tony often recounts how he would have to dive for a photo in the midst of action. Bullets around, troops advancing. Tony was there diving into the dirt with his Argus camera, which is on view in the case in the gallery. This kind of intense personal experience is what Tony shares with his viewers in all his photos. Tony's international reputation as an innovator of creative photographic techniques and artistic presentation is well deserved. Much of what is created in photography today has its birth behind Tony Vaccaro's lens. In addition to the photographs on display, we are privileged to have some of Tony's vintage cameras and memorabilia in the exhibit. Sarah Mackay has curated a special selection of these unique precious objects, and she will introduce these. Sarah?
Thank you, Gail, and good evening, everyone. My name is Sarah Mackay, and I am the Gallery and Performing Arts Coordinator of the Rye Art Center. We are delighted to exhibit Tony Vaccaro's vintage cameras and lifetime memorabilia alongside the photographs of this exhibition. In a way, these objects bring his past to the present in a very tangible way. We invite you all to take a look tonight at the cameras, darkroom equipment, and lifetime mementos of Tony Vaccaro. Ooh, the nerves. That's what happens when you speak about someone this big. Okay, so take a look at the cabinet and see them not just as vital aspects of his career and artistic practice, but as a collection of treasures. With that said, thank you, and may I introduce Patrick J. Cicalo.
I guess I didn't get the memo that said I could use cue sheets. Just gonna have to wing it. I just wanted to thank Adam and Gail for inviting me to be part of this project. It's been a real honor. And to Tony for entrusting me with all his photos. I first became familiar with Tony's work back in the late 70s. I was going to college in Iona, and I took my darkroom classes at the College of New Rochelle. And one of my instructors, Dr. Charles Daly, would always talk about the great New Rochelle photographers, and he would mention Arthur Rothstein, who you may remember him. He did all those wonderful Dust Bowl pictures from the FSA period. And the other photographer was Tony Vaccaro. And I was glad to hear that as a fellow Italian. And here we are, 50 years later. I finally got to meet him. COVID kind of held things up. We never really got a chance to get out to Queens to kind of go through images and pick things as we had wanted to. But fortunately, I got to spend the last 3 weeks living with the images you see next door. So while I was matting them and framing them and then ultimately bringing them here in the last few days, hanging and lighting them, I got to step back and really look at everything. And one thing kind of became clear, and not surprisingly, that Tony has pretty much outlived every one of his subjects. Well, Sophia Loren's still with us, but for the most part, except one, and unfortunately that subject is man's injustice to man. And I don't know how you did it back then. I mean, I'm a photographer, I love photography, but I could have never done what you and so many other wonderful journalists do. So just want to thank you, because to do what you did, you had to have a certain amount of humility and empathy for your subjects and bring back the horrors of war for all of us to see. So thankfully, you have all those other wonderful, beautiful pictures that we can kind of see as well. So I'll leave it at that and hand it over to Frank and Tony Vaccaro. And thanks again, Tony.
Okay. Do you want to be through the images? Okay, sure. All right, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna go through the images now that we've prepared a slideshow, and we're gonna ask Tony and Frank to comment on the works. So let's start. And we started off with one that's this is a very interesting photograph. So please, I don't want to elaborate further. I think it's best to hear from Tony about this photo.
Actually, seeing him was a surprise to me, because this was taken just where the plains of Normandy go into the forest. And now this gentleman here was a friend of mine, which made me wanting to take this picture when I saw him dead. He was in the same company as I was in the army. We landed in Normandy just 4 days after the invasion. We almost were there at the invasion. Actually, the German soldiers at that time, the Nazi soldiers, they had assumed that the entry into Normandy was impossible, and that the Americans, or the Italians, would never make it. Well, he was wrong. He was a friend of mine, this gentleman, and when he fell, the grass was green. It wasn't like this. This happened much about almost a month. Yes.
I've listened to my dad's stories all my life, and he's now 99, and he's right about everything. The snow came after Henry Tannenbaum was shot, and Tony went out the next morning, January 13th, 1945.
Yes.
Autre, Belgium, where the plains of Normandy do hit the Hurtgen Forest. And the photo has footsteps around it, but in the darkroom, Tony always blocked out the footsteps in the snow. They're hard to see anyway. And he came up with this image, which Tyler Hicks did a nice tribute to this in the March 24th New York Times, if anybody saw it. And he reached out to us about that. But Tony visited this spot about 50 years later and spoke to, he was with the movie Under Fire by HBO. They were trying to find the spot where this occurred, and they couldn't find it. Tony didn't recognize the landmarks. Instead, it was all trees, small trees. And jump in anytime, Dad. Jump in anytime. So you saw a farmer, and you asked, about the soldier, the death in the snow, the
Yes.
battle.
Yes.
And the farmer said, I just grow Christmas trees here. And Henry Tannenbaum means Christmas tree in German, in English. So that's how that photo came full circle. His son, Sam Tannenbaum, who never met his father, heard that story and reached out to Tony, and they've been great friends now for about 25, 26 years.
Wow.
Thank you.
How things happen in the world amazes me. How this picture came out this way.
To photograph something is strikingly beautiful, but at the same time so morbid, is really
It deals with the tragedy of mankind.
and you can see, sometimes beauty in the tragedy, right? And other
Yes.
times
Yes.
pure
Yes.
tragedy. Wow. Thank you.
Something beautiful that is for something that is ugly.
That's right.
I beautify ugliness in a way.
Great artists do that. Well, thank you for doing that. We're gonna go to the next photo.
This was the day that I went to the museum, and at that time I was dating this girl, and someone came with the idea we can make a hat just like the museum. And so I said, oh, that's a good idea. This is you go 20 steps this way and then you are in Central Park. That's exactly where I am there. The museum is still there, and the hat is in my personal museum. So, but what is it's an incredible picture to me. Look at the long neck of this girl, almost as long as her face. To a photographer, to you it may not mean anything, but to a photographer, you wonder how do all these coincidences happen? Who does it? You know, well, we do it, actually.
Tony, if I can ask you about your process, do you remember, did you take multiple photos of the subject that day, or was it something?
Oh yes, I always take
Yeah.
various.
Various.
That's the
And you find the one. So obviously this is the one.
yes, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't know this girl had found this hat. I went to the Guggenheim Museum, and suddenly she appeared.
Oh, no. She was at the, you went uptown together.
I
You demanded on her for her neck.
So her neck.
That's a long neck.
Okay.
I think Virginia Swanson had the best 500 photos of the Library of Congress. It was an exhibition in L.A. What was it? Is it the Annapurna Photography Museum? Am I saying it right?
Consult our.
Is it Annapurna? I doubt it. So they used two of Tony's photos, made that, but they used this photo as the photo for the fair, for the exhibition. And that was quite an honor. It's something about it. We've had people ask Tony to redo it with them.
With the hat?
Yeah, that was actually interfered with by COVID. But we may rekindle that.
So I'm not going to ask questions. You getting your reaction and hearing your stories or your remembrances of that day, I think, will be the most impactful. So what do you remember about this?
Next to her
This is Venice?
is her little Venice.
Yes.
Yes. Next to this is really the Grand Canal of Venice, and I never saw her alone. She always took that pooch with her, the little dog, which is right next to her. Normally, as you can see, the gondola is for two people to sit there, but she, a wealthy woman, bought that whole land, and eventually that was her own gondola. Can you imagine someone that, how rich are they? Unbelievable that she has all of these people.
What is she holding under her skirt, Dad?
I forgot. I think there was
Another gondola?
Okay, so I'll jump in anytime.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
she was on her errands to Venice, and did she live at her museum in Venice?
She just came out going to Venice.
So she knew that a boatload of students, young girls, were going to visit the museum, and there's a horse sculpture, a man on a horse, by Marino
Marini, yes.
and it has a large male.
Now, what's happening here is that with her hands she unscrewed this thing, and she's holding it on her lap. This big thing, this. and she was an amazing woman, rare. to have this big thing in her hand and that little pooch little dog, sitting next to her.
If you visit the Guggenheim Museum in Venice, there in the backyard there is a tomb marker, a grave marker, and all her dogs over the years are listed and buried there.
Wow.
Very important to her.
Well, that's more than I could ever have imagined would be happening in that photo. Wow. That's why we're doing this. This is insight. Thank you, Tony. George O'Keeffe.
We decided to have a picnic in the desert. Well, when we arrived there, it was quite beautiful. But shortly, the weather changes and it starts to rain. And so we're not having the picnic on the sand, we have it in my car. And she has red wine in a plastic glass because it was part of the car, you see. And what amazed me is I am driving the car and I look back and I see this picture and I quickly grab the camera and take this picture.
And that, what she's holding, is a piece of cheese.
Is a piece of cheese and red wine.
My two favorite foods and drink.
I mean, I would add that he had the camera next to him while he's driving, focused exactly for this, and with the f-stops and everything. And he said he saw her doing that in the mirror, and he just went bang. She's not the kind of person that is this publicly whimsical. She's not. So that's what makes this unique.
Every photo I've seen, she does have a serious demeanor. So, Tony, you brought out some of the humor in her, which is rare, for her, I'd imagine.
Yes.
But beautiful. Another serendipitous moment that you captured.
Thank you.
Adam?
Yeah.
I'll add one thing.
Please.
The preeminent O'Keeffe biographer is Wanda Korn, I think, at the moment. And she did spend some time browsing Tony's holdings, about 400 photos taken in April of 60. And she was looking through the photos and she said, "My God, she loved you." I've looked at thousands of photos and there's only one where she's smiling in them. But in these, she was smiling in every photo.
That's beautiful. I'm glad you added that. That's wonderful. Tony, do you remember her smiling a lot? Did it take a while for her to warm up?
Yes.
Yeah. To sort of open up her demeanor and her...
We had planned to have the picnic on the sand, but suddenly the weather changed and rained, and we came into the car and continued our picnic, eating in red wine and cheese in the car. So, but we had not planned it. It was all a surprise.
You brought all of those goodies from Albuquerque.
Yes.
So she was very happy to get Swiss cheese,
Yes.
your selection of red wine.
My wildest dream, having a picnic in the middle of the desert with Georgia O'Keeffe, drinking wine and eating cheese is just, that's amazing.
Oh, this is wonderful. This is backstage of a theater where he was giving a show, you see. and we had agreed for me to photograph him backstage. This is the entrance to the backstage of the theater.
Chicago Theater.
Photography.
Chicago Theater.
Chicago Theater, yeah, where it was in Chicago. By the way, if you don't pronounce Chicago just right, it's an ugly phrase.
So we do have several photos here. Marcel Marceau does run behind the garbage can. And Tony took the shot.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was his backstage photo of Marcel Marceau. They were great friends. They met eating a sandwich on the same bench behind Notre Dame in 53?
Yes.
Ish. And they were friends to the end. I was supposedly, I spent a summer in a inflatable pool with his daughter.
Are there photos?
Yes, but then I guess he was in New York in '97. He did a great show at Hunter College. Did anybody see that? What an amazing show that was. If it redefines what you think of as a mime, you know, the craft seems to be downplayed by many people these days. But he was supernatural on stage.
An amazing man. This de Kooning, he was painting that picture, and he was going, sit down, look at it, go back, add something else, come back, sit there. And I took a series of pictures of him. I really wanted to do a picture. How does he do it? This, you know. And so I go in the back, and he's looking at his picture, and he's adding a little bit. Then he goes back, sits down, he looks at it, goes back, paints a little bit. As you can see, on the right of the thing, you see a little table. That's where he had all the colors, all the paints there. And marvelous man.
It's so interesting to hear you tell that, because that is, I didn't hear that story, I didn't read that story, but I did. This just happens to be one of my favorites, of many in the exhibition, but having de Kooning sitting in the chair and sort of contemplating the work and capturing the process is exactly what struck me when I saw this photo, it played out exactly the way you just said it. So having knowing that he is looking at the work and speaking with an artist's background, it goes through many iterations. Much like photography, where you're taking many different photos or trying to find the right moment. The artist, the painter, finds many different moments to capture. So that is really exceptional. One personal question, if I could ask. Did you shoot any of these? Were all in black and white, right? Nothing in color at any, because I know some of the Picasso. And some
I did take color.
Not in the 50s.
Right, that's true, yeah.
In the 80s, you did him in color.
Oh.
He did World War II in color. We have a number. If he found a color roll on the way, he would use it. Were you looting? I don't know, but he has some color from World War II, and he used color throughout the 50s. He always had two cameras. But the de Kooning is all black and white, except for a visit with him in the 80s.
Maybe we could have those in another 30 years for part 3.
this is a returning German soldier that I speak a little German, so I found out that he came back to this town, and Frankfurt was literally destroyed by the Americans. And so when this German soldier came back from Texas, he's literally crying like a baby when he discovers that his house was in that part of Frankfurt.
This picture was one of the first to get 1 million views on Imgur, and I don't know, do people still use Imgur? But we know the date because it's across the street from the American Embassy in Frankfurt, and it was in March of 1947. And yes, German soldiers were in POW camps in Texas, and they were not released in 1945. They were kept out of Germany while America was rebuilding and helping that country rebuild itself. We didn't want the influence of Nazism to interfere with that process. So as they were released in 1947, exactly as he says, the house is gone.
Tony, you must see many parallels to what's happening today with Ukraine and Russia and all these images that are coming out. You know, it's not to get political, but you know, similar, yeah.
All wars are the same.
Yeah.
This picture was taken. See the dark spot on the ground left? That is the roof, the shadow from her studio. And what we did, we just brought it, the sun was beautiful, not a cloud in the sky, and we took this picture from inside, outside. Actually, it was her idea to come, Tony, let's do this in the sun. And the reason that there is so much land in the back was that the story was going to be written on top of that, you see. Because it's much, it goes even to the right more. But this is, I selected a picture, but she agreed with me. And if you look her eyes, she looks towards the back and it says, is it okay this way? She keeps telling me where to put the picture, you see. And I said, yes, it's okay this way.
He once told me, she said, are you done? Yeah. He has about 12 of these, and each one she's in a different position. Wonderful, wonderful to look at. And yes, we never crop his images, but this is one of the few we do crop. You may have seen this image cropped to her right elbow. We only did that because Tony cropped it himself that way in the 60s and 70s.
I wanted to write the story of the picture over that, but eventually.
And the reason he has the mountain is so, yes, the Look magazine could write the George O'Keeffe story over the photo, and then you have the photo, the background of the photo slipping behind the story. So it wasn't important, we felt, for the the way the picture is often cropped.
What's amazing, though, is that the composition is so unique that knowing that that's what the intent was, to have the copy on the side or the text on the side, but even without it, the composition, is just so beautiful and one of many iconic images. I know you mentioned Georgia helped sort of direct the photograph as you were taking it, and I'm sure she saw it many times after, but did you have a chance to, with her in person, see these photos and see her reaction to?
She was named Georgia after Giorgio Otto. Otto. Giorgio Otto was the real, her father, I suppose.
Her mother's father. But to answer your question, at the Whitney in '71,
Yes.
Georgia O'Keeffe was exhibited, and Tony went to photograph her at the Whitney, and she saw Tony, and she grabbed his arm and pulled you into the room that had this photo.
Oh, yes.
What did she say?
Let's go see our picture.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yes. Let's go see our picture. And we did. And as you can see, the eye almost is looking back
Checking on you, making
on,
sure
on
you're...
me. Yes. This is the day we entered this town. Saint-Briac. It's the town is called Saint-Briac-sur-Mer. Saint-Briac on the sea, because it's next to the sea. And the story is this GI that, or some soldier in the past, was in a big palace with carpet on the floor, and he had a symbol for the carpet is a handkerchief that I put down and took this picture. And at the same time, they are singing a song, local in French. Yeah.
So that square is now named Tony Vaccaro Square. The two women in the back were reunited with Tony for the 2016 movie Under Fire. And he has 3 of these, and the other 2 are not good. There's something magical here, and you said, I don't think Tony you didn't supply the napkin.
No.
He was about 50 feet away when he saw it happening, and he's running to get the shot, and Jean Costanza,
Yes.
August 14th, 1944, the liberation of Saint-Briac, he kisses her on the left cheek.
Yes.
He kisses her on the right cheek. Tony's running to the camera. He thought he missed the shot. He went for the 3rd kiss. And they told him later, oh, this is France. He did the 3rd kiss. He got the 3rd kiss. And it's a miracle that nobody from the ring that he didn't just get the backside of somebody. It could have been very easy. So Eisenhower wrote Tony a letter. He said that this is the best photo of the war in the European theater. So he didn't want to insult Joe Rosenthal, who did the photo of the Marines raising the flag. But still an honor.
Do you have the letter still? Okay, in Americans?
Wow. Now they know that Iwo Jima was staged.
Like the moon landing.
This is on my terrace, 6 West 77th Street in Central Park West. She was inside of my apartment. She came to visit me, and I am outside, and you can see my reflection over her. It's an amazing picture. This is one of my favorite pictures.
It's amazing how you took a subject as beautiful as she is and made her even more.
Yes.
Yes. You did it, but
yes. And
yeah.
that's my shadow from the sun. It was shot on my penthouse, 6 West 77th Street.
If Tony wasn't standing there, she would see Central Park with the Carlisle directly across the park.
Well, I was fortunate because she was beautiful.
Oh, yeah.
You know. This is the Cooney.
Oh,
the two of them.
Jackson Pollock.
The work is similar.
The two of them were together all the time. They smoked together. They, yeah.
Now, is this Pollock contemplating one of his works, like de Kooning, in a very similar way, or did you
Yes.
capture
yes,
him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And right next to him on the right there, his left, is his dog. But here, eventually, I took the dog out because he was a chain smoker. He smoked. Came this much left and barely, and then they took another cigarette and lit and went on. It was not my style.
Part of his process.
Yeah.
So this is our last photo, our last image.
This is Givenchy.
You're not in the show? Yeah.
This is in Paris. I took this picture as he was a very elegant man, as you can see. I took the picture as he came out of there. Yeah.
When I was a kid, I thought he was an FBI agent.
And an action shot. I mean, not posed. I mean, clearly he's coming out. You can't.
Coming out, and with the right hand, he's closing the door without looking. You see. Yes.
Yeah.
This was in Paris.
After he passed, we sent this image to Philippe, but I think Philippe died recently too now. So.
Well, that concludes our images. I want to thank you, Tony, for sharing all of these stories with us. Frank, thank you so much. I don't know if do we want to bring everybody into the gallery maybe now and have, so please, we'll retire back to the gallery, have some drinks, have some food, and we will share some more of the images with you. But again, Tony, thank you so much. I just want to say, Jen Dye, another 100 years.